I lost $200,000 building a home back in 2009. And everybody out there on the internet loves to share their biggest real estate wins, but they never talk about their losses. And hey, I don't regret it. I had the experience, I ran the numbers, but the land and that housing market had other plans. And if you're thinking about building a home, flipping a home, you need to watch this video in its entirety, as I'm going to tell you about my journey building my home through the biggest financial crisis in history and how I pivoted, and it made me a better person and helped me get to where I am today. So it all started back in 2008, had a plan, a dream of building this house, and then buying more homes out in this area where I bought this awesome piece of land in Colorado, 1.5 acres, had great views, great location. And my plan was to build this fully custom home, maybe live in it or just sell it right away. But either way, I had plans to build 5 more spec homes in that area at that time. Now, I wasn't some newbie in the business. I've flipped homes, I've sold homes, I had rental properties, I helped others buy homes, and I just thought, how hard can this really be? Well, in came that first curveball that hit me fast. Right when I was getting ready to break ground, I found out that I had to pay $60,000 for a water tap fee. And no, this wasn't for a pool. This wasn't for a well. This was just to connect to the city water supply. And at the time, I didn't even know that was a thing. And just like that, I was already $60,000 in the hole on my budgets before I even started pouring a single wall. So after we got through the water tap issues on this, then came a soils report. And I know that may sound simple, but that wasn't either. And after doing the soils report, it turned out that I found out the hard way about the Colorado soils. I mean, I couldn't pour a standard foundation based upon the soil. And the soil was found very unstable. The soil had bentonite and steeping bedrock in it, and it expanded, and it was very expansive, and it wasn't anything like the rich soils I was used to back in Nebraska, where I originally came from. And so I interviewed engineers after engineers, and I mean, gosh, this took weeks. And finally, I found one who I felt good with, that I signed up with. But boy, those delays, wow, they cost me thousands just to get through that. And through all this, many of the recommendations, they wanted to install what were called helical piers to stabilize this foundation because of the soils. And if you don't know what a helical pier is, it's almost like a big giant corkscrew that goes into the ground to stabilize that foundation, as again, our soils were so expansive, especially in that area. And they not only wanted just a few, they wanted 35 helical piers at that time. And I believe those were going to cost me 60 to 70 grand just for those. I mean, talk about a wake-up call. And I hadn't even started building this home yet. So after I found my engineer, we worked with him, and he recommended that we could do a structural foundation with an engineered overdig, in fact, a 10-foot overdig, meaning that we would excavate a hole in the ground and 10 feet over. And then what we had to do was put a bunch of water on that soil and let it expand and contract for a while. And then we had to bring it in 1-foot intervals. In the county, they had to come out and inspect every foot that we put down and sign off on it. And again, this process, I thought, hopefully this is it, because it was at such a standstill. This took so long. And again, this all caught me off guard at that time. Well, we finally had the overdig all done, and now we were ready to get started on that new build. And then in came all the builder drama. And at the time, I wanted to GC my own project, but because the financial crisis was so bad, the banks wouldn't allow me to do it. I had to actually hire a builder. So I worked with him, but basically he wanted to do an open checkbook on everything. And I had to always say, hey, no way. I tracked every dollar and every change order. I mean, I was relentless. And despite everything, I finished $45,000 under my budget. And I thought, this is my win now. So everything else is just going to go smoothly, right? Well, In came in that 2008 market crash. We went into the biggest financial crisis in history. And if you were in real estate back then, you know what I'm talking about. The jumbo loans vanished overnight. And here I was. I had this awesome finished home ready to sell. But guess what? Nobody could get finance and not even myself at the time. And I had a mortgage bank, and no loans meant no buyers. So I was really stuck with, what am I going to do now with the monthly payments on this house that I have? And all my plans were getting smashed every second that this crisis went on. Well, here's what I did, and hopefully you can learn too, but this is where I got creative. So I went to my bank at the time and I asked them if I could structure what was called a wrap mortgage, where basically they would stay in first position and I would do my lien in second, but it would wrap the first. And basically I would be like the first mortgage holder, even though they were in first position. But it would be on terms that me and that new buyer I found would agree upon. And basically, they gave me the okay to do this because of the way everything was at the time. Well, that buyer, he made payments to me. And so I just kept paying the original loan that I had on that property. And so I was thinking, well, here you go, Dave. You found another way to be creative to get yourself out of a jam. Boy, was I wrong. I got a call from my bank one day saying that the note is going to be coming due in 30 days. And if you remember back in the times, banks were shutting down at an alarming rate. And it was no different for the bank where my construction loan was. And so I had to pivot again and pivot fast. So I went to the buyer of my property and basically told him the same thing, that I had to call his note due. And we worked together. We actually found a great bank out here in the area, which I continue to use today, that went and refinanced everything, and it paid me off. And when it all shook out, that's when I realized I took a $200,000 loss. Just boom, everything was gone. And you know, the one thing I always look back on that is I kept my credit. I made my payments. I did everything in my power to make it work. Just was part of the housing market. It just didn't work out, but I never let it get me down even at that time. I mean, that's what most people won't ever tell you, are those types of situations. And if you ask anybody that knows me, they will say I've never complained about that loss, not even once. And you know what? It taught me so much, more than any seminar, a mastermind, some YouTube guru, all those guys out there that have their flashy jets and cars that are these big investors, but they'll never talk about these kinds of situations. And you know, this situation, it actually taught me how to budget under pressure. And I mean, under pressure. I was under pressure. And I learned to never buy a home without multiple exit strategies. And I also learned how fast the market can flip on you, even when you're doing everything right. And in the market that we're in currently, make note of that one. I also learned how to remove emotions from the transactions. And most of all, I learned that the loss, it's just part of the business, and you're going to have them too. So if you're thinking of doing this or flipping houses or whatever it is, there's going to be losses. You have to prepare for them. And everybody out there loves to flex their muscles when they have their wins, but they never do on their losses. But this is where, honestly, your real growth will happen. So if you're in real estate investing, maybe you're building a home, flipping a house, ask yourself this: what type of backup plan do you have if something like the housing market turns on you? And can you pivot when the market doesn't cooperate? Those are the things you need to ask yourself anytime that you are analyzing a deal. And this is why I wanted to share my story on this, because so many people I talk to are afraid to get in the business. And I just want to paint that clear picture of the risks that are involved. But if you just keep going, you keep grinding, you're going to find your way out of it. And it is going to make you a better person. And maybe you're going to lose some money. We all have lost money. I don't care what other people say. There's no way everybody wins on every deal. And let's be honest about this real estate business. It's not always pretty, but if you learn to survive those hard hits, you'll end up being unstoppable. So anyway, if you take anything away from that, just know that everybody has been there. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with people and also make some comments if you've had some similar situations. I'd love to hear everybody's story out there. I'm real and I just want to hear your story, and also it'll help others as well. And also like and subscribe. It's a new channel for me, just trying to build up my following. And also, until next time, stay tuned for these other videos that are coming up next.